All right, let's see if I can get this going here. Start talking in a couple of seconds. Need to share this around here a little bit. Oh, I got a couple of watchers. Who's out there? Say hi. Let me know who's watching. Who's watching? Oh, down to one again. I'm not trying to be boring. I'm trying to help a friend out here. Keith, you know who you are. Oh, I lost everybody. I lost everyone. I lost everybody that was watching. Oh, well. All right. Well, we'll do this. I don't do live very often, but I told my friend Keith that I would spread this around. So on Sunday at 4:30 at the West Mankato Highschool, Comrade Commissar Timothy Walz is going to be having a little shindig. He's going to give a state of the tyranny report address, state of the state address, and the Rocks and Cows organization, rocksandcows.org, and the Conservative Patriots Consortium. Yes, try saying that one 3 times fast. Conservative Patriot Consortium. They have decided that they are going to show back up in mass, and they would like as many of you as possible to be there to make your voices heard. What this event is not. Okay, let's get this straight. This event is not a Trump rally. This event is not a Stop the Steal rally. This event is not a attempt to overrun the high school. We don't approve of that. No, this is a let's come, be respectful, be peaceful, but be loud and be heard event. And here's why. There are people here in the state of Minnesota who believe that Governor Tim Walz has the power and the authority to continue with his unconstitutional, I'm speaking my opinion here. It's an opinion based on in-depth study and research, but it is an opinion. You're entitled to disagree with that if you'd like, but you're not to try and, shall we say, shut me down for saying something that you don't like. All right. So anyway, Governor Tim Walz has continued to assert authority that the Constitution of the state of Minnesota does not give him. Constitution of the state of Minnesota does not allow him to perform legislative powers. Even if the statutes of Minnesota say that he has that power and that the legislature has the power of legislative veto. That is non-existent, and it violates the Constitution of the state of Minnesota. It also violates the separation of powers that we see in the state of Minnesota Constitution and the Constitution of the United States government. Legislative bodies cannot grant legislative power to an executive, especially the governor of Minnesota. And they also cannot grant to themselves executive powers through the power of legislative veto. And so everything that Governor Tim Walz has done since this time last year has been in direct violation of the Constitution of the state of Minnesota. And therefore, it's unlawful. It is unlawful. It's awfully unlawful. It's awful. Lawful. So, unlawful. That's what it is. So, what they're going to do, they want people with their tractors, they want people with noisemakers, they want people with voices, they want people who have things they would like to say to the governor to show up. Make signs, okay? Make signs, make noise, be peaceful, be civil, but be loud, all right? Jay from Rocks and Cows has been trying to organize this kind of event for quite some time. Keith Haskell who has put together the Conservative Patriots Consortium, has been working on trying to get something like this going for quite a while, and we need this to happen. Now, not all of us can be there, but here's something else that's been happening a lot lately. We got a lot of people that have a lot of pride in their own organizations, right? We got people who like to tout themselves as a leader of a movement here in the state of Minnesota, and they don't like to share the limelight with anybody. They don't like sharing the space. They don't like to be told to stand down in the sense of get out of the way and let somebody else go get up there and be vocal. If you guys can hear it, I'm babysitting my grandpuppy. You can't see her right now because she's laying down, but she's whining that she has to stay in here with me. So if you hear whining or an occasional bark, that's her protesting having to be in here with me. She's not the only one that has that protest having to be with me, to be honest with you. So anyway, we have got to get out of our own way, conservatives and patriots and liberty-minded folks. We have got to stop being worried about someone stepping on our land and stepping in this area that we think we're building on our own. We didn't forge the patriotic movement in the state. We didn't forge the patriotic movement in this United States. A long time ago, a bunch of people who are far smarter than anybody that you and I know, and we know that they're smarter because they wrote the Constitution. The vast majority of us could not have come up with that on our own. So if we sound intelligent, if we sound educated when we talk about the Constitution, it's only because we had somebody else write it for us. They wrote the textbook of liberty. They wrote the textbook for patriotism. They got out of each other's way. They didn't let egos get in the way. And so, while I will personally not be able to make it on Sunday because I have already committed to being part of another organizational meeting for another organization, I want as many people who can to show up in Mankato at the West Mankato Highschool. And I want them to be there in mass. I want it. Oh, there she is. You guys can see her now. Say hi, Summit. Oh, she said, nope, don't want to be seen. So anyway, be there. I know for some of you, it's going to be a long drive. For some of you, it's going to be a few hours. For some of you, it might only be 10 or 15 minutes. Summit. Shh. All right. But here's the deal. Show up. Make our presence known. It's time that people like Tim Walz and Keith Ellison and Jan Malcolm and others heard our voices. It's time, for one, that Jan Malcolm be removed from her position. She has screwed up the handling of the response to the COOF here in Minnesota. She screwed it up. Our governor has screwed up the handling of this event, this pandemic event we call the COOF. All right? He's screwed it up. He trusted models last year that told us that we were going to have thousands and thousands and thousands of dead people in the state of Minnesota, even with lockdowns in place, even with people being ordered to stay home, even with people being ordered to wear masks. We were going to have thousands of people dying. 7,000, 8,000. Sometimes I've heard numbers. We could see 20,000 dead in Minnesota. Here's something else, right? What else did we hear? We heard that the bodies were going to be piling up so much that we had to spend several $1 million on a cold storage facility that the governor just arbitrarily decided to buy from Bix Produce so that we would have a place to store all the infected dead. It never materialized. And you know what? Praise God for that. I'm thankful that didn't happen. Very, very thankful that didn't happen. But do we get to give credit for that to the governor and his unlawful, unconstitutional mandates that have stripped from citizens of the United States who happen to reside in the people's state of Marxisota, stripped from them medical freedom? Just think about that. The only person who can give you permission to wear a mask in public, outside of for entertainment reasons and at holidays, is an authorized physician. According to Minnesota state statute, not according to an executive order, to a Minnesota state statute, right? A physician can prescribe a medical mask for you to wear in public. There's the only one. The governor is not a doctor. And not every single Minnesotan that has been ordered to wear masks, wear facial coverings in the state of Minnesota, has personally met with a doctor to have a prescription written for them. Okay? Here's something else. The governor has criminalized, with his executive order, not wearing a mask. Well, his order directly contradicts a state statute that says it's criminal to wear a mask in the state of Minnesota unless you have a prescription. They're conflicting crimes. And the governor cannot arbitrarily sign into law by executive order a way for you to circumvent another law. So when the governor orders you to wear a mask and then tells you that the other law is no longer valid while the mask mandate is in place, he has violated his role as an executive in the state of Minnesota, no matter what the executive committee, I almost said the executive community, no matter what the executive committee says, they cannot give him the permission to make null and void a law that's on the books for a valid reason. So we have two diametrically opposed laws happening, right? Well, here's something else. The governor, according to the state constitution, is also in violation of that by having ordered churches to either shut down completely or hindered their free exercise of religion. Now, what did we see happen? Churches like Cornerstone Church of Alexandria, represented by the Thomas More Law Foundation organization, challenged the governor along with a member of the House of Representatives. And I also believe one of the people who challenged it as an individual citizen happens to also be a county attorney. And several other churches joined in on this. And the challenge is valid. It's legitimate. They point out massive places, massive errors in logic where the governor has overstepped and said and done things that he's not allowed to do constitutionally, according to the Constitution and the laws of the state of Minnesota, right? And once that law started to gain some traction and they realized they were going to lose their butts on it, the governor all of a sudden, oh no, well, I'm going to lift the restrictions on houses of worship. And why is that? Because he doesn't want to lose in court. He doesn't want to lose in court. And here's why he doesn't want to lose in court. He doesn't want to lose in court. If he loses in court, the whole facade begins to crumble. Everything that he's been trying to do starts to fall apart. And we're seeing that over and over and over again in other jurisdictions around the country, right? Massive, massive wins for patriotic, conservative, traditional, constitutionally minded American citizens are starting to challenge these unlawful, unconstitutional, invalid executive orders from governors and mayors and county boards and despots all over the place. And they're starting to win. Now, Keith Ellison's out there bragging, we've won them all. You've won some on some technicalities, Keithy, but you're not going to win them all. Let's look at what's happening to Lisa Hanson at the interchange in Albert Lee. Prosecutorial persecution of Lisa Hanson. And for what? Daring to defy a governor who is doing something that's unconstitutional and therefore unlawful in the state of Minnesota, no matter what the courts say, quite frankly. She is losing everything because she's being persecuted for standing her ground. And now they want to throw her in jail. They want to throw her in jail. What's her high crime? What's the great crime of Lisa Hanson from Albert Lee? Daring to keep her little wine and coffee bistro open. While Walmart in Albert Lee can be jam-packed full of people, while Home Depot in Albert Lea can be jam-packed full of people, while Hy-Vee can be jam-packed full of people. This is why our governor needs to be protested. This is why our voices need to be heard. Make sure, if you don't have some more pressing obligation, and quite frankly, short of a family event or a previous commitment to something else of this magnitude, why would you not want to show up and make your voice heard on Sunday? Once again, this is not a Trump rally. This is not a Stop the Steal rally. This is not a we're here to call you names rally and say all sorts of immature things. It's there for people to make their voices heard. And let's make sure when we do these events that we don't look like the caricature that they paint of us. That's been one of the things for the last year that has just bugged the ever-loving crap out of me. You want to know why I stopped going to a lot of rallies? Because people stand up and they say the most immature and stupid things I've ever heard. Or when counter-protesters show up, we flip them off. Look, people, that's not how we should be behaving. Why sink to that level? Why represent yourself in such a way that you look like everything they think you are anyway? And don't give me this line of crap that says, oh, well, if they're going to treat me that way, then I might as well act that way because it doesn't matter how I handle myself. They're going to paint me in that light. No, they paint us in that light because we let people who apparently represent us stand up and say asinine and stupid things. And that's not what this rally should be. If you go to show up in Mankato on Sunday, and you're going to be there to support Jay from Rocks and Cows and all the other people that are part of the Rocks and Cows organization, if you're going to show up and you're going to help represent what the Conservative Patriots Consortium is there for, please don't use foul language. Don't use immature, childish name calling. Now, if you want to use a little bit of snark or sarcasm and say Commissar Walz, and I'm not just saying that because I like to say it, but it makes a point. See, there's a place for satire and there is a place for sarcasm in the political critique of our opponents. And it's a well-established history within the political debate realm. But if you're just going to show up to flip off people who disagree with you and call them names and say things like, I hate mask holes and all of that other stuff, stay home. Because we don't need people like you representing hardworking, traditional, conservative, sound, patriotic types. If you're going to show up and Antifa shows up and Black Bloc shows up and all of these other leftist Marxist organizations show up to counter protest, and you're going to get out there and get face to face with them and nose to nose with them and turn it into some sort of push me and see how far you want to take this kind of thing, don't go. We don't need that. This is not the time and this is not the place. Show up on Sunday. Show that you can be peaceful, show that you can be civil, show up that and demonstrate that you can engage intellectually and logically without name calling, without foul language, and make sure your voice is heard so that we can take our state back. And in the process, we can take our country back, because right now, all the rallies have done nothing to stop any of it. And a lot of it is because people, one, have allowed their pride to get in the way, and they don't want to be involved with somebody else's event because that might steal the thunder from me. I might lose some of my social clout. Two, don't act like the morons that they think we are. And sometimes they think we're morons because we act like morons. It happens. If you didn't see it at any of the rallies this year, then you weren't at any rallies. Leave your guns at home. I mean, if you have a permit to carry and you have one on your hip, fine. Leave your guns at home. And if you're going to have one, make sure it's not out in the open. Leave flipping the bird off, flipping people off. Leave that at home. Leave signs with foul language at home. Leave the name calling signs at home. Use snark, use sarcasm, use a little satire, but use it intellectually. Engage your minds. Show up and be heard. And for those of you who are interested, part 3 of my Exploring the Joseph McCarthy video series comes out this evening at 6:15 p.m. I would love to have you there watching it. I would love for you to watch the entire 3-part series. So far, who knows, it may end up being 4-part. I doubt it. But watch all 3 parts. Watch the first part, 1 and 2. Watch them this afternoon if you have time. And then watch part 3 tonight. Because in that video tonight, what you will hear is you will hear me extolling the virtues of Joseph McCarthy and why I think he was kind of a hero. Because Walz is doing coming. And he was ready to engage. And now we need to be ready to engage and handle that as well. So, once again, show up on Sunday, no later than 4:30, West Mankato High School. Make sure that Commissar Timothy Walz of the People's State of Marxisota knows enough is enough, and it's time for him to step out of his role of dictator, to fire Jan Malcolm, and 100% open up the state of Minnesota again. And then on top of it, make sure that as he does that, he makes it abundantly clear that all criminal and civil charges and cases against every single business owner that he is trying to destroy are dropped. So that law-abiding, constitutionally minded, patriotic people like Lisa Hanson and Larvina McFarquhar and Britt Haskins and Jane Moss and Lisa Monet Zarza and the people from the poorhouse and from Neighbors and all of those other businesses that have been suffering, make sure that they don't have to have the threat of future criminal action and civil action taken against them by the all-powerful state of Marxisota. Show up and be heard, peacefully, civilly, and decently, but be loud. Yes, Michelle Mackey, time to recall Walz. And until next time, Sic Semper Tyrannis.